Buenas, Senator Babauta.
Buenas, Troy. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. I suppose the question is for you. How are you doing today? But I want to save that question for the end. And I want to get straight into giving you an opportunity to, I suppose, discuss what was discussed when you were not in the room at yesterday's session. Let's just start right away. Senator Francisco Cruz of Tinian, a Republican, he went on for quite a few minutes in multiple parts of a speech where he essentially said and repeated himself, we're not bad people. Check the chairman, meaning you. Check Babauta about why she didn't want us in Tinian to be on the committee. I did check Babauta because, it's the reason we're all here is because she didn't want us on the committee. And then he says again, she didn't want to take us into her committee.
But from the get-go, that when I went in there, she never wanted any of us to be in that committee. So why were the blame? I think whoever's talking now, you should do your work and find out the truth why the members of that second senator are not in that committee. Not just keep jacking him off and saying something bad because we're Republican. We're not bad Republican. Don't blame on us. Check the chairman, what happened. Don't blame on us. Because I tried my best a couple of times to address this. And I think, Senator Poe, you can attest to that because I asked you to amend the rules. But you insist and tell me, go check Babauta because she's waiting for you guys. I did check Babauta, Senator Babauta, but she did not accept any of us. Why were the blame on all those bills that are still sitting there and not been entertained? Maladata na clause din eh. Basta man na said bill o trutauto ni mablame mo for the whatever you're not doing and to blame on us because we don't want to join you. Because you don't want us to be in that committee. You don't want us to be in that committee. I ask you, and you refuse to accept any of us. Don't blame on us because a member of your committee resigned and put us on the spot that we were the blame of whatever that is not been done in that committee. Please, like, malada ta na pamulik ta Chairman Babauta's no committee is not been entertained because us no second senators no districts fault that we don't accept. Ti malago na ako niyam gizon niya committee. It's gonna ti ang problema is gonna pengkonyam no registered you with you that you don't want us. I don't feel comfortable joining a committee that when the chairman don't feel that that she wants us in that committee. Titaginin na still, Madam President and members of the Senate. Edyo ni manisito ang ginista problema. I don't think that's right.
I have seen the documents dating all the way back to July of last year, right after Senator Dennis Mendiola abdicated his role on your committee, that show that you did check Tinian many times and asked all three senators to be in your committee. What response do you have for Senator Cruz and for the people of the Commonwealth about that?
That is correct, Troy. In total, there were 7 communications with all the members of the Tinian delegation, asking them to engage with the JGL. And I've repeatedly said that the JGL committee meetings or the EAGI committee that I chair also are open to all the members of the Senate. A practice that I have, a tradition that I have practiced since my days in the House. One word comes to mind about everything that Senator Francisco Cruz stated yesterday, and that one word is dishonest.
Okay.
Let's just put that out there. I can back those. I can back up my statements with all the 7 communications.
Yeah,
And
Kandit actually has 3 of them. We published 3 of the memos that were on your letterhead with your signature, sent over to those senators. And it's our understanding that the Senate president also had copies of those. And so please, if you could send over all 7 of them, we would love to publish that for our audience so that they can see what has happened over this period. Would you also call what Senator Karl King-Nabors said dishonest? Because when he spoke up during the session, it was by Zoom. He said, and he kind of parsed his words carefully. He said that the Tinian senators were not invited. None of the requests were made when the committees were being formed. What do you have to say to that?
To be honest, I did not hear Senator Karl King-Nabors's comments yesterday. I was only able to skim through it after I was alerted what was happening in the Senate session during miscellaneous yesterday. And I was about to say that I have no qualms with Senator Karl King-Nabors. I happen to think that I have a good working relationship with him. I am friends with, and I make it publicly known, I am friends with his sister, Kimberly Hines, who is running for delegate, in this November's election. But if that were the case, certainly Senator Karl King-Nabors has all the communications. With him being the chairman of the Tinian legislative delegation, out of courtesy, I provide him and address him in almost all the memos.
So he is aware, or should have been aware, of your several attempts to invite all three.
Most definitely, Troy. He was certainly aware of it. He even acknowledges receipt of these memos.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then Senate President Edith Deleon Guerrero, and we'll get to the politics of this later, but she backs up her decision to remove you from the committee with the qualification that it was always about her endeavor and her desire for you to appoint members of the minority. And so in her speech, she said, I asked Babauta to appoint the minority. Let the record be clear, transparency. She didn't want, but I wanted her to appoint the minority. I asked her twice out of respect, and she said to me, when something along the lines of let me think about it, or something like that.
I myself, in the spirit of transparency, had requested twice our chairwoman, Senator Babauta, respectfully to consider the minority members in her committee so that it is well represented. The response I got, twice. I'll think about it. With respect, I asked twice. And so I allowed it to let go. I would think that in her good conscience, that she would do the right thing. And nobody's being thrown under the bus. We're just speaking transparency and the truth.
Based on the facts that pour out with these documents showing that from the beginning, actually, from your appointment of Senator Mendiola to his abdication to then your attempts to appoint the Tinian senators, what do you think of the Senate President's qualification of her decision that she wanted you to appoint the minority and you didn't?
That's certainly not the truth as well, Troy. As you know, when we appoint members to the committee, it is required for us to notify her, being the presiding officer of the Senate. So she did receive the memo appointing Senator Francisco Cruz first, at least, to the JGL committee.
Was she aware of your after Francisco Cruz left you on red for 2 months, and you sent your memo to King-Nabors appointing King-Nabors? Was she aware of that memo?
I won't speculate on that, whether she read it or not.
And then a few months after that, after King-Nabors left you on red, with that appointment, was she aware that you then appointed Senator Jude Hofschneider?
I don't know if she read the memos or she received it. I really can't say as to what the office procedures are in her office.
Are these
But they're public record.
Are these
These are public
decisions
documents.
and public are these efforts as public officials discussed in your leadership meeting that you're supposed to be having according to the Senate's rules?
That's a very good question, Troy. It is unfortunate that for the past 16 months, we have not had any leadership meetings, not a
So-
single one.
So the Senate president has not called a leadership meeting of the leaders of the Senate.
That's correct. The 5 senators who gave their confidence to her as to be the next Senate president. We have
You're-
not had a single leadership meeting, so we never know what when the next session will be, what will be on the agenda. We are not given any advance notice of anything.
Including your removal as the chair of the
That
JGO.
is correct. That is correct. The day the memo was issued, I happened to be on the airplane traveling to, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, traveling to Japan. I did not receive any advance notification. It was issued when I was off island.
Are you able to confirm now what has been speculated for several months already, that there has been discord and a complete lack of collegiality because of the Senate president?
I can say that since she became Senate president, she has usurped the powers of the floor leader, basically giving it to herself. So, and this concentrates power and control in the hands of the president, creating an imbalance and a pattern of unilateral decision-making, Troy. And that is the facts up here at the Senate. And that's what we have had to deal with for the last 16 months. But we don't, publicly air those things. It's internal, and we've managed to do the best we can.
Well, it's all
So
out in
far.
the open now, and so there's no use in sugarcoating anything that's happening now that it's come out in the open from that Senate session that happened yesterday. So is, Senator, in your opinion, is this why many of the reforms and initiatives originating in the House, but also those desired by Governor Palacios, have been held at impasse in the Senate? Because the Senate president is blaming you for holding on to bills in your committee. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to that.
My response is that, because she has taken the powers away of the floor leader, she has the authority, Troy, and to pull out bills from committees, and she has exercised that multiple times in different committees. And so it rests solely on her lap. She has the power to do so. So the issue of not moving bills is really moot. And one of the examples is that a bill that was introduced by Senator Donald Manglona to provide more autonomy to the Attorney General's office in their hiring practices. It is an independent agency having an elected Attorney General, and that was referred back to committee despite the fact that the committee recommended passage of it to give them more autonomy. And, I must say about that bill, there's nothing that's constitutionally defective about it. So there really should not have been an issue if it's about employees and fearing that they would be removed. Certainly classified and unclassified employees have their own procedures on removal that must be adhered to.
There are attempts by the minority to expand gaming in the CNMI, and there obviously is the desire by well, they're no longer the minority, they're now the majority, with the Senate president on their side now, the new majority in the Senate, to block attempts at the prosecution of Governor Ralph Torres. One of the most important and significant bills that you were acting on as you were removed from the committee was the Marissa Flores subpoena bill. And there's also other important economic development legislation, like Senator Donald Manglona's driver's license bill, that were both on a trajectory to be reported out onto the floor. What's going to happen to these important pieces of legislation now that there is new leadership? Are these just dead in the water now?
It's hard to say, Troy. With the new JGO chairman and its members, only time will tell.
And so thank you for that. And that doesn't provide much confidence in the direction of reform and the going after of corruption in the CNMI. What you just said, that there's, we don't know yet how things will pan out, especially with the subpoena bill. Let me ask you this. Now that the gloves are kind of off, will you become louder about legislation like this in an attempt to have it passed?
Certainly I have my views on certain bills, as is inherent of being a member of other committees as well. We all form an opinion initially and then also do a lot of research. And I do want to add, Troy, that just because a bill is sitting in committee doesn't mean it's not being worked on. You know, the process is we have to solicit comments. It would be prudent to solicit comments from agencies that may be affected by these proposed amendments to whatever statute pertains to a certain agency. So it's important that we get their feedback. They know their departments better and maybe they can help better a bill. So that's what delays the process. It doesn't take 2 days to get a bill out to the Senate floor. We have to do our due diligence, and we do, scrutinize all the bills, whether it is introduced in the Senate or it comes up from the House.
I have just a few more questions, and then I know that you're expecting the rest of the media to be there at your office. Senator Jude Hofschneider, in his speech yesterday, he made a point about how the Senate needs to be concerned about economic development, and that in his defense of Edith Deleon Guerrero, of her decision to take the committee away from you, he essentially blamed you for impasse in the way of economic development.
A lot of our people and a lot of the business community had to swim out of that, and they're still actually, the water is up to their neck perhaps, and we just need to kind of navigate the way out of this. And it's unfortunate that it comes to this.
But let me rather than ask you to respond to that directly, let me just ask you, has Senator Jude Hofschneider or any of the Republicans come to you with any proposals or solutions on economic development outside of expanding gambling?
None at all, none that I've seen. And I would like to add, Troy, that my record speaks for itself. Ever since I came into office, I've been volunteering a portion of my salary to needy students at Cagman High without taking a tax credit or a tax deduction on it, as some would say.
Have any of your other colleagues taken that same salary cut?
No, nobody in the legislature has done it except myself. I've also brought the Cortec Foundation scholarship to the CNMI, of which a Tinian student was able to benefit from that, $5,000. I appropriated $1 million for Northern Marianas College. I assisted a Rhoda citizen in Guam from becoming homeless. I've had a road paved in Naslito. I've had, brought CUC and DPW get fix a flooding problem that has, and that there's no longer any flooding there because they were able to mitigate it, and many others, and it's unfortunate that they need to bring people down in order to lift themselves up. And I did all this, Troy, without having to bring anyone down.
Have these senators who now populate the JGL, have they been at least attempting to be active in the JGL prior to this treachery?
None at all, none. And I will give you all the 7 memos wherein I appointed each and every member of the Tinian delegation, and they took their sweet time only to tell me no, they refuse to be a member of the JGL. So their arguments, and certainly Senator Francisco Cruz's arguments that I didn't want to include him or any member of the Tinian is totally dishonest and is utterly false.
Senator Dennis Mendiola took he went to the issue of corruption in the other way. He said in defending the Senate president and the new moves by the new Republican Senate, he says, everything has been about blaming the Republicans, blaming the Torres administration. He says the easy way is to blame Torres, who's corrupted and who's stealing what.
Everybody's struggling. And if we're going to just keep washing our hands and saying, oh, Governor Torres messed up, or former governor or former administration, that's the easiest way to just get out of your situation. Problem is that if we don't have any solution, then why even move to another position if we haven't even figured out the problem now? Why move? Why try and ascend? That's my situation here, is that we're out there. Saipan's not my senatorial district, but I'm out there and the people are stressing their frustration. Everything in the paper, everything in the media is about who's corrupted and who's stealing what.
What I want to ask you, Senator, is what has been the value of your efforts since being in the House, transferred over into being in the Senate, in battling corruption? Because your colleague, Senator Mendiola, does not believe it is valuable to the people of the Commonwealth at this time.
I am grateful for the team that I had in the House in exposing all of this, Troy. Had we not done so, people would continually question why we are in this financial slump. So all the records were exposed. They were not fabricated. They were evidence, brought forth from subpoenas issued to the respective agencies.
Am I correct in my math that the $500 million in ARPA expended all at one time by Governor Ralph Torres could have filled the CNMI government's financial hole more than 5 times over?
That is definitely correct, Troy, and then some.
Had there not been the corruption in the use of the $500 million, would there be austerity Mondays today?
No, I don't believe there would be.
Had there not been $500 million in ARPA funds corruptly expended by the previous governor, would there be problems and worries about paying into the settlement fund and also the 25%?
Well, the ARPA funds could not have been used for pensions. That was specific in one of the rules from the U.S. Treasury. But I'm sure that had there been more caution in spending the nearly $500 million in ARPA funds, we would not be, and the retirees' pensions would not be in jeopardy today.
Senator, despite this move by Ms. Deleon Guerrero, are you still committed, or maybe the question should be, are you now more committed than ever to the fight against corruption?
Most definitely, Troy. I've never really swayed away from that. I've always kept my ears and my eyes open. People feed me information, but I don't take that excuse me, at face value. I do my research before I even expect.
What do you have
I'm
to
sorry?
say what do you have to say to Senator Mendiola then in his comments about, trivializing that fight against corruption?
Well, it's I didn't hear what Senator Mendiola had to say yesterday, but if that's coming from him, and I will go back and watch the that portion of the session, what has he offered, to provide solutions for the predicament that we're all in? So according to him, we should all forget it. We should all forget that that there was this misuse and fraudulent use of the ARPA funds. And if the Republicans want to keep the focus on the future and try to forget the past, I say let's just do the work, and stop talking, about what could have been, and we should move on, because we need to start talking about solutions rather than just offering lip service, basically.
So with all that's been said and done, Senator, how are you feeling and what is next?
Before I go into that, I do want to add to the comment about, in response to Senator Mendiola, talk is cheap. Let's do the work. How do I feel? I'm relieved, Troy. I'm not going to be distracted by all this pettiness, and I will not be distracted. Like I said, mentioned earlier, my record speaks for itself.
Okay, and so what's next then?
Right now, after I close this interview, I will go meet with the other media, but I do have other bills that I will be introducing again, such as the Government Records Act. As we all know, government records, official documents were destroyed as the previous administration was heading out of office, and I want to introduce a bill that would criminalize that. There is no good reason that we should be destroying or redacting official documents.
It's amazing that that isn't already a criminal act.
And we just confirmed DPS Commissioner Anthony Macaronis. I'm still chair of that committee, so we'll see what happens next.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, Senator. You have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you, Troy.